Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
Each time we kiss, I absorb her memories. I'm becoming the lover she lost. Her biochemistry transfers experiences through contact. I now carry the ghost of someone else inside me, and she looks at me with ancient eyes. The research station's cafeteria hummed with the usual post-shift conversations when I first saw Lydia Voss. She sat alone at a corner table, her auburn hair catching the artificial sunlight streaming through the dome's transparent panels. Europa's ice plains stretched endlessly beyond, but I couldn't look away from her. "New transfer from the genetics lab," whispered my colleague Tobias. "Brilliant, they say. Also dangerous." I approached her table anyway, drawn by something I couldn't name. Her green eyes held depths that seemed impossibly old for someone who couldn't be older than 30. "Mind if I sit?" I asked. She looked up, studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Dante Reeves, Engineering Division. I've read your file. Should I be flattered or concerned?" A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. "Both, perhaps." As she reached for her coffee cup, her fingers brushed mine. The contact lasted barely a second, but something electric passed between us. Not attraction, though that was there too, but something deeper. A fragment of sensation that wasn't mine. The taste of strawberries, the sound of laughter, the feeling of being cherished. I pulled back, startled. "What was that?" Her expression grew guarded. "What was what?" But I saw the recognition in her eyes, the way she clenched her hands to avoid further contact. She knew exactly what had happened. "Lydia," I said softly. She stood abruptly. "I should go." As she walked away, I sat there with the phantom taste of strawberries still on my tongue, wondering what I just experienced, and why it felt like remembering rather than imagining. 3 days passed before I saw Lydia again. I found her in Lab Section C, working alone under the harsh white lights. She wore thick gloves and a lab coat buttoned to her throat, every inch of skin covered except her face. "Avoiding me?" I asked, entering despite the biohazard warnings. She didn't look up from her microscope. "You shouldn't be here, Dante." "Why?" "Because of what happened in the cafeteria." Her hands stilled. "You felt it." I tasted strawberries. I heard someone laughing. A woman's laugh, but not yours. Finally, she turned to face me. Her eyes held a sadness so profound it made my chest ache. "My cellular structure is altered. Physical contact triggers neurochemical transfers. I absorb experiences, emotions, memories, and sometimes I share them." "That's impossible, is it?" "We're surrounded by impossible things. Life on Jupiter's moon. Faster than light communication. Love that transcends death." The last words carried such weight that I stepped closer. "Whose memories am I carrying?" "Someone who's gone," she whispered. "Someone I lost." I reached out instinctively, but she stepped back. "Don't," she said. "Each contact makes it stronger. You start carrying pieces of the dead, and eventually," she swallowed hard, "eventually you become them." "I'm not afraid." "You should be. Because if you touch me again, you'll start remembering a life that wasn't yours. You'll fall in love with someone who died 3 years ago. And I'll watch it happen, helpless to stop it." I stood there, hands still extended, choice hanging between us like gravity. I couldn't stay away. For 2 weeks, I found excuses to be near Lydia, maintenance requests in her lab, chance encounters in the corridors. She watched me with those ancient eyes, waiting for me to flee or fall. Tonight, I found her on observation deck 7, staring out at Europa's star-scattered sky. She'd removed her gloves, her bare hands pressed against the reinforced glass. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said without turning. "Lonely?" I replied, moving beside her. "Same thing sometimes." In the reflection, I saw her smile, sad and knowing. "You're going to touch me, aren't you? Despite everything I told you." "Yes." "Why?" I turned to face her. "Because the pieces I already carry feel like coming home." Her breath caught. Slowly, she faced me too, her ungloved hand still against the glass. "Her name was Celia," she whispered. "She was everything good in the universe. Brilliant, kind, funny. She loved strawberry ice cream and terrible old movies. She laughed at my worst jokes and believed I could save the world." "What happened to her?" "I happened," My condition manifested during an accident in our lab. Neural feedback loop. I absorbed too much too fast, and tears traced down her cheeks. She became an echo inside me. I reached up, cupping her face, thumbs brushing away the tears. She leaned into the touch despite herself. I dream about her, I admitted. Since our first contact, I dream about loving someone completely. Those aren't your dreams. No, I agreed and kissed her. The transfer was immediate and overwhelming. Celia's presence flooded through me. Her joy, her passion, her absolute devotion to the woman in my arms. The morning after our first kiss, I woke up humming a song I'd never heard. By afternoon, I was unconsciously organizing my tools the way Celia used to arrange her research notes. Tobias noticed first. You seem different, he said as we worked on the atmospheric recycling systems. Happier, but, I don't know, like you're someone else. He was right. Celia's memories had begun integrating with mine, subtle at first but growing stronger. I remembered her favorite sunrise from Earth, felt echoes of her affection for rainy days, carried her unconscious habit of tapping Morse code when nervous. I found Lydia in the hydroponics bay, tending to strawberry plants that shouldn't have been able to grow in Europa's artificial environment. You're cultivating them for her, I said. She froze, pruning shears trembling in her hands. For you now, apparently. You're starting to show her preferences. Is that what happened to you? Is that why you seem so much older than you are? 3 years of carrying someone else's lifetime does that. She turned to me, and I saw fear in her eyes. It's accelerating with you. Physical contact makes the transfer stronger, but emotional connection, that creates resonance. The memories align more completely. I walked closer, despite her warning. What are you so afraid of? That you'll disappear. That I'll wake up one morning and find Celia looking back at me through your eyes. That I'll lose you the same way I lost her. Not to death, but to becoming someone else entirely. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away this time. What if that's not losing me? I asked. What if that's becoming complete? The kiss tasted like strawberries and forever. 2 months passed in a blur of shared consciousness. I could no longer distinguish between my memories and Celia's. I knew the exact shade of Lydia's eyes when she laughed, remembered the weight of her head on my shoulder during movie nights that had happened before I existed. The station's medical officer, Dr. Carla Peterson, called me to her office with concerning test results. Your neural patterns are changing, she said, displaying brain scans on her monitor. It's like you're developing a secondary personality matrix. If this continues, I'll lose myself, I finished, or gain someone else entirely. I've never seen anything like it. That evening, I found Lydia pacing her quarters, 3 empty coffee cups on her desk. You talked to Peterson, she said without preamble. I had to know what was happening to me, and now you do. She turned to face me, her expression carefully controlled. You have a choice, Dante. We can stop this. No more contact, no more kisses. The memories will fade eventually, and if I don't want them to fade, then you keep becoming her. Keep loving me the way she did. Keep carrying her dreams, her hopes, her absolute faith in tomorrow. Her voice broke. Keep letting me pretend she never really died. I closed the distance between us. What do you want? I want to be selfish. I want to keep you and her both, even though it's destroying you. I want to pretend love can conquer death, that consciousness is transferable, that losing someone just means finding them in someone else. I cupped her face, feeling Celia's fierce protectiveness rise in my chest. Then be selfish, I whispered, and kissed away her tears. The transformation accelerated after that night. Within weeks, I could access Celia's memories as easily as my own. I knew the scar on Lydia's shoulder from a childhood accident, remembered our first date even though it had happened 4 years before we met, felt the phantom ache of loving someone with absolute certainty. Tobias barely recognized me anymore. It's like you've been replaced by your own twin, he said over lunch. You laugh differently, walk differently. Yesterday, I swear you were about to order strawberry cake before you caught yourself. I was becoming someone else, but the strange thing was how natural it felt. Celia's personality didn't feel foreign anymore. It felt like coming home to myself. Lydia watched the change with a mixture of wonder and grief. Sometimes she'd catch me in gestures that were purely Celia's, and her eyes would fill with recognition and loss. "Do you remember our fight about quantum entanglement?" she asked one evening as we watched Europa's auroras dance across the ice. "I did remember, though I'd never been there. You said love was just neurochemical conditioning." She said that was like calling music organized sound waves. "You called me an adorable pessimist, and kissed me until I admitted that maybe some things were bigger than science. I was right." Lydia smiled through her tears. She was always right about the important things. I pulled her closer, feeling the absolute certainty of love that had belonged to Celia but now belonged to me too. "I'm still me," I said, "just more complete." "I know," she whispered. "That's what scares me." But when she kissed me, I felt her relief alongside her fear. Living with someone else's memories meant living with their pain too. I began experiencing Celia's final moments, not as secondhand knowledge, but as lived experience. The lab accident, the neural feedback loop, the terrifying sensation of consciousness dispersing into quantum static. I woke screaming one night, clutching my head as phantom electrical pain coursed through my synapses. Lydia held me while I shook, whispering reassurances that felt like echoes from 3 years ago. "She's still in pain," I gasped. "No," Lydia said firmly. "That's just the memory of pain. Celia is at peace." "How can you be sure?" "Because she loved me too much to haunt me with suffering. What you're carrying is everything beautiful about her. The pain is just residue." But I wasn't convinced. As Celia's presence grew stronger within me, I began to understand the true nature of Lydia's biochemical condition. She wasn't just absorbing memories. She was becoming a repository for consciousness itself. A living graveyard of the people she'd touched. "How many others?" I asked during one of our walks through the station's arboretum. She knew what I meant. 17 over the years. Most were just fragments, a handshake and accidental brush of skin. But there were 3 others like Celia. People I loved who became part of me. "And now me, now you." She stopped walking, turning to face me with those ancient eyes. "Do you regret it?" I considered the question seriously. Did I regret losing myself to become someone else? Did I regret falling in love with echoes and shadows? "No," I said finally. "But I'm beginning to understand why you tried to warn me away." The crisis came 6 months after our first kiss. I was working on routine maintenance when I suddenly found myself in Celia's laboratory, 3 years in the past, watching Lydia work with devoted concentration. The vision was so complete I could smell the recycled air, feel the vibration of machinery through the deck plates. When it ended, I was on the floor of my engineering bay with Tobias shaking me. "Dante, can you hear me?" I could hear him, but I could also hear Celia's voice whispering equations in my mind. I was losing the boundary between past and present, between self and other. Dr. Peterson's diagnosis was grim. The personality integration is accelerating beyond sustainable levels. Your original neural patterns are being overwritten. If this continues, Dante Reeves will cease to exist within weeks. That night, I sat with Lydia in her quarters, holding her hands despite the risk of further memory transfer. "I have to let you go," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Both of you. I can't keep destroying the people I love." "What if I don't want to be saved?" "Then you're more like her than I thought." She smiled through her tears. "Celia would have made the same choice. She always loved me more than she loved her own life." "Then why are you fighting it?" "Because I've learned the difference between love and possession. Keeping you means losing you. Letting you become her completely means neither of you really exists anymore." I felt Celia's presence surge within me, her absolute devotion and fierce protectiveness. But underneath it, I felt my own love for Lydia, different in flavor but equal in intensity. "There might be another way," I said slowly. My plan was dangerous and probably impossible, but it was the only solution I could see. Instead of fighting the personality integration or surrendering to it completely, I proposed a controlled synthesis, deliberately balancing Celia's memories with my own consciousness. Dr. Peterson was skeptical. "Neural pathway modification is experimental at best. One mistake could leave you catatonic, and doing nothing will leave me erased, I pointed out. The procedure required returning to Earth's advanced neurological facilities, but first I needed to stabilize the competing consciousness matrices. That meant one final, complete memory transfer with Lydia, absorbing not just Celia's experiences, but her final moments of clarity before the accident. Are you sure about this? Lydia asked as we prepared for the deepest connection we'd ever attempted. I need to know how she died. More importantly, I need to know how she chose to live. The transfer was overwhelming. I experienced Celia's entire life in minutes. Her childhood on Mars, her scientific breakthrough that led to meeting Lydia, their years of perfect partnership, and finally, the accident that scattered her consciousness across quantum space. But in those final moments, I felt something unexpected. Celia's absolute peace with her fate. She hadn't died afraid or angry. She died knowing that love persists beyond individual existence, that consciousness is just one way of being connected to another person. She let go, I whispered as the transfer ended. In the end, she chose to let go. Lydia nodded, understanding immediately. She trusted that what mattered would survive in me, and now in us both. When we kissed this time, it felt like completion rather than consumption. Celia's presence settled into harmony with my own consciousness, no longer fighting for control but adding depth to everything I felt. The neural synthesis procedure took place 6 months later in Geneva's Consciousness Research Institute. Dr. Peterson accompanied us, fascinated by the implications of successfully integrating multiple personality matrices. When I woke up 3 days later, I was still myself, but I was also more than myself. Celia's memories remained, but as shared experiences rather than invasive ones. I could access her knowledge, feel echoes of her emotions, draw on her scientific intuition, but my core identity remained intact. How do you feel? Lydia asked, holding my hand carefully. Complete, I said, and meant it. I remember loving you through her eyes, but I also love you through my own. And Celia? I smiled, feeling her presence like a warm constant in the back of my mind. She's at peace. She wanted us to be happy. We returned to Europa 6 months later, but everything had changed. Lydia's condition had stabilized. The successful synthesis had somehow balanced her own neural chemistry, allowing her to touch others without absorbing their consciousness. Do you think we'll grow old together? She asked one evening as we watched the ice auroras dance. I think we already have, I replied, kissing her with all the accumulated love of multiple lifetimes. In the kiss, I tasted strawberries and forever, felt the echo of Celia's joy at seeing us happy, and knew that some forms of love really can transcend death. Not by refusing to let go, but by learning to hold both memory and possibility in the same infinite space. We were no longer haunted by the past. We were enriched by it, carrying forward the best of what came before while building something entirely new.